In this video, I'm going to build the exact same application in two frameworks, React and Vue.js. We're going to cover the following topics: set up router and create multiple routes, generate router links, get route parameters, making API calls, pass props from parent to child components, emit events from child to parent, hooks, event handlers, two-way data binding, form submission, dynamically bound properties, conditionals, loops, and finally, we're going to also have a look at the state management. That's going to be the perfect project if you want to compare how these two frameworks work in multiple criterias. Alright, let's immediately start building this project. Before we start building our application, make sure you have installed the latest Node.js version. Now I'm going to create a folder on my desktop and call this React Vue Sample App. I'm going to open the folder, copy the path, open PowerShell or CMD, navigate into the path, and right here I'm going to generate two applications. One for React and second for Vue.js. I'm going to use Vite to generate applications. npm create Vite. Hit the enter. We have to agree on this. I'm going to call the first folder Vue. I'm going to choose the framework to be Vue. I want to use JavaScript, not TypeScript. And that's it. So we have Vue folder generated. Now I'm going to do the same thing. npm create Vite. The folder name will be React, the framework will be React, and I'm going to use JavaScript again, not TypeScript. Okay, I have both applications generated. Now I'm going to open two instances of VS Code, code for Vue and React. Here are both projects. On the left side, I have Vue, on the right side, I have React. Now let's bring up terminals on both sides, and we're going to run npm install, and then before I start the applications, I'm going to open package.json for both of them, and specify right here different port. I want this to start on port 3000 and the React needs to run on 3001. Now let's start applications. npm run dev on both windows. Oops, I have missing dash right here. And here are both applications started. On the left side again I have Vue, on the right side I have React, and clicking on the button increases counter. So both applications are working. Now let's explore directory structure. So right here we have the VS Code, we have node modules, we have the public folder inside which we have just one SVG file. This is the SVG file we see in the browser. We have source folder inside which most of the project related files will go. We have the gitignore, index.html, and we have of course package.json and readme and Vite config. We're going to work in the source folder. And let's have a look in the main.js because that's the main file. That creates Vue.js application and mounts it to the element which has ID application. Okay, we have this element right here. So that mounts right there. And then if we have a look in the app view, this is the component which renders everything what we see on the left side in the browser. Okay, so let's clean up everything. We don't need those links, so I'm going to remove the links. I'm going to remove the hello world component as well, and I'm going to write here hello from app. And let's remove all kind of styles from here as well. Let's open the sidebar again. So that was the app view. Inside the components, we have this hello world component, which was used in the app view. And I'm going to delete this as well. I don't need this. I'm going to open also style CSS. And right here, we have some basic styles and I'm going to remove them as well. So we don't need that. So now if I save this and have a look in the browser, we see just hello from app and nothing else. Now let's clean up the React project. The structure is very similar, as I mentioned, to the Vue folder. So we're going to work mostly in the source folder. If we open main.jsx, right here we see that we import React, we import React DOM. Right here we create the root. We select the element by ID, that's going to be root. If we open index.html, that basically has an element with ID root, right? So we select that element, and inside that element we render the following React application. Okay, let's open index.css, and I'm going to remove all styles from here. Let's open now app component. Inside app component, let's clean up everything. I'm going to remove everything basically from here and just write hello from app. And if we go in the app CSS, we see some styles right here as well. And I'm going to clean up and remove everything from here as well. Let's remove this React logo and remove this counter, use state, and that's it. Now that's good. Now let's have a look in the browser. Okay, we see the exact same hello from app for React application as well. Pause right now and let me know in the comment section down below which framework is your favorite. Vue, React, or maybe something else. The main purpose of this video is to compare Vue to React in every possible aspect. And let's start with very basics. And I'm going to print an object in our template. So let's clean up this. I think I forgot to remove this. And now I'm going to define a constant user right here. And I want to output that user information in the template. Instead of hello from app, I'm going to create pre-tags, and inside pre-tags, I'm going to just write user. Okay, and now let's have a look in the browser. So we see right here name, Zura, and age 30. So that is outputted pretty nicely in Vue.js. Now let's have a look in React. So let's define the same user object, and right here, let's output now user inside pre-tags. Okay, let's have a look in the browser. We don't see anything. That's because it's not possible to directly output the objects in your React.js template. So we need to stringify that. So I'm going to write json.stringify and pass the object. And now let's have a look. So we see right here now object. But look at this. In the Vue.js, it's much more readable. However, in React, it's everything on a single line. Imagine that you are debugging and you have a huge object and you want to have a look. What do you need to do in React? So you have to provide second and third arguments in this JSON stringify. The second argument is undefined, and the third argument is indentation size. I'm going to specify this into 2, save this, and now if we have a look, we see the exact same result in React. But I think that's much handy than this. Now, let's remove everything from both and leave just empty applications right here. And now I'm going to install Router and create routes. Let's start with the Vue.js. I'm going to stop the Vite server and install Router by running npm install -s vue-router at 4. This means that I want to install the version 4. Let's hit the enter and let's open terminal in the React, top the server, npm install -s react router DOM. Hit the enter. In the Vue.js side, the router was installed, so let's just run npm run dev, and the router was installed in React as well. Let's run npm run dev here as well. Okay, now we have to create router and configure application to use the router. In the source folder, I'm going to create a new file called router.js. First of all, we need to import create router and create web history from Vue router. Next, we're going to define routes. At the moment, we have only one route that's going to listen to the slash, and the component which needs to be rendered for this route is post list. That component does not exist yet. We're going to create that and import in the Vue router, but just follow this at the moment. Okay, so we have routes, then we create router. Router equals create router, and we have to specify right here history, which should be the history mode, and in this case we use create web history. And that basically indicates that we want the web history type of routing in our application. Your navigation will be saved in history, and when you click back, it's gonna go to the previous URL, okay? And we have to provide right here routes as well, and then we export the router. Now, inside the source folder, I'm gonna create a folder called pages, and inside pages, I'm gonna create post list.vue. And let's simply generate a boilerplate code. Let's save this. Now let's go in the router, and I'm going to import this post list. The last thing is to go in the main.js, and after creating application, we have to use router. So I'm going to call the method use, pass right here router, and the router needs to be imported properly. Okay, so we have created router, we are using the router, and the only thing is to go in the app view, and right here we need to create router view tag. That tag is responsible to render any component which will be associated to the path. Now, if we have a look in the browser, we see an empty page. Our post list component is an empty component. If we type something right here, for example, post list, then we see post list right here. That proves that our routing works and the component associated to our route was successfully rendered. Now let's do the same thing for React. In the source folder, I'm going to create a new file called router.jsx. First, let's import create browser router from React router DOM. Let's also assume that we already have created post list JSX component, and let's import that component. Next, we define routes. We specify path, and we specify the element, the component which needs to be rendered for the given path. Then we create router using a create browser router, passing the routes, and finally we are exporting the router. Now, if you open main.js, we don't need to do anything right here. So we are using the app component and we need to open the app component, and we need to use router provider right here. Router provider, and we have to provide router as well. Make sure you import router properly as well. Now we have created router. We are using the router right here in this app.jsx component, and now we need to create the post list component. Let's go under source folder and create pages. Inside pages, post list.jsx component, and let's generate boilerplate code. And here is the result. We have successfully installed router for React as well. For this project, I'm going to use JSON placeholder, and I'm going to use posts endpoint. Let's copy the URL. Now let's go in the post list component, and from here, we're going to make requests to get the posts and render them. First of all, I'm going to remove this export default and convert this into composition API with setup attribute. First, let's import onMounted and ref from Vue package. Then I'm going to define post list variable using ref and passing the default value to be an empty array. This ref makes sure that we have the post list as a reactive variable. Whenever it is changed, it's going to be affected in the template as well. Okay, down below, we need to listen to mount hook of the component, and onMounted function accepts a callback right here. So we pass the callback. Inside the callback, we make requests to the JSON placeholder URL to get the posts. We're using fetch right here, so we need to get the response and convert this into a JSON. And finally, inside second then, we have posts right here. And then we take the posts and assign this into post list value. Because we created that post list using ref, we need to assign this into dot value, because that is a reference. The post list itself is a reference to an internal variable, okay? And by doing this, we are sure that the post list will contain the actual value of the posts. And right here, we can now print post list and have a look. Here are our posts in the Vue.js application. Let's do the same thing for React. The fetch will be very identical, so I'm going to copy that. Right here, we're going to use effect. It's very similar to onMounted, but we pass right here a callback, and we pass the second argument to be an empty array. Passing this empty array means that the use effect callback will be called whenever the component is mounted. Use effect is very multi-purpose function, but because we pass right here empty array, it's going to call onMounted only. Okay, and right here we are going to have fetch, and we're going to make requests to the URL and get posts, but we need to assign this to something. Okay, and that something needs to be some kind of state right here. So right here, I'm going to define post list variable and set post list, which will be use state. And as a default value, I'm going to pass an empty array right here. Right here, I have 2O. So we have post list, and I'm going to call set post list right here and pass actual posts. Those are the posts we got in the response. So I save this, and in this div, I'm going to type pre. Inside here, we're going to have JSON stringify, passing posts, and undefined and 2. Save this and have a look. Oops, we have a small error. That should be post list. And here are our posts coming in React.js application. Now, because we have post list, I'm going to iterate over my posts and render them. For this, let's create a component, and I'm going to call the component post_item.view. Let's generate boilerplate code, remove this export default, and change this into setup. I don't want to spend time writing on CSS, so I'm going to use Bootstrap for UI. Let's go to getbootstrap.com. Let's scroll down below, and on the right side, we have include via CDN. I'm going to click on this, which is going to copy the link into my clipboard. And let's now open index.html, and in the head tag, I'm going to include the Bootstrap CSS. Let's actually close this. Now let's go in the post item. The post item needs to accept an object. So I'm going to call a method define props and pass an object right here. And inside the object, I'm going to specify post to be an object itself. And we specify the type of the post needs to be object, and it must be required field. Okay, whenever you don't pass the post prop on the post item component, it's going to give you an error. Now let's create template. First, I'm going to create div with card class and margin bottom 4. Inside there, I'm going to have card body. Inside there, I'm going to have card title. And right here, I'm going to output the post title. And I'm going to have also card text and output the post body. So we have post item almost ready. Let's go in the post list and iterate and use the post item. So right here, I'm going to create a div, and inside div, I'm going to use post item, and that post item needs to be imported in this post list. So the post item accepts a post. Well, let's start iterating. v4 post of post list. We have to specify right here key, and the key needs to be something that is unique for each iteration, and that's going to be post.id. And we have to provide an actual post right here, and that's going to be the post object, entire post object. So we save this and have a look in the browser. Now, if we just reload the page, we don't see any error in the console, and right here we see post items rendered pretty nicely. Let's be honest, this is not nice, I don't like this. So let's go in the style CSS and add right here some styles for body, like we remove the margin, we set some padding and background color. And now if we have a look in the browser, I think that's more like it. Let's zoom out slightly, and we have the title and we have the body for each post, and we have nice background. I don't know what's nice in this background, but it's different from the post background itself. Alright, let's do the same thing in React. Go in the source folder, and I'm going to create components folder. Inside there, I'm going to create post item.jsx. Let's generate boilerplate code. Let's remove this import React because we don't use class-based components. But the post item accepts right here props. And I'm going to take out post prop from the props, and the post prop is something we need to use inside the template. So let's do something similar what we are doing. So I'm going to copy this template right here and put inside the JSX. Well, I need to change the class into class name, and I need to change also the way how we output the values. Instead of double curly braces, we're going to have only single. All right, so we have the post item ready. Let's go in the post list and iterate. So let's remove this pre, and I'm going to use now post item right here, which by the way needs to be imported. So it was automatically imported by my VS Code, and now we're gonna loop. And looping inside React is slightly different from Vue. Let's go in the post list, and we see right here we create this post item and call v4 attribute on this post item. Now right here we have this post list array, and we're gonna call map on this, and we have right here post, and we're gonna return JSX object after calling map for each individual post. Okay, and that's going to be post item. We need to specify right here key, and the key needs to be post ID as well, and we have to provide right here post. Now let's open index.html and copy this bootstrap CDN link and put this in React as well. So far so good. Now let's have a look in the browser, and we see something very similar. The only thing is probably go in this style CSS, copy this, now open right here index CSS and paste and save and have a look in the browser. Okay, that's identical. If you enjoyed the video so far, it's the perfect time to pause the video, hit the like button and continue watching. If this video gets 2000 likes, I'm gonna make similar video on these two frameworks, but with a different project. Now, let's create post delete functionality. I'm gonna create one div, let's give it class text and inside there, I'm gonna create a button. Let's give this class btn danger, and let's give it text delete. Let's save this and have a look in the browser. So we see a delete button right here. We need to add an event listener to this delete button. To add an event listener in Vue, we need at, and then the event name, click in this case, on delete click. So let's copy the name, and we have to create the function with the exact same name inside script tag, which will accept a post right here, and then we need to delete that post. By the way, let's pass post from here. Well, let's first show confirmation if we are sure we want to delete that post. If user doesn't accept, we just return, then we make a request to the following URL. We're going to pass right here a second argument, which will be a method corresponding to delete. So we want to send a delete request to the following URL. Of course, we need to listen to then, and whenever a response comes right here, we need to check. If the response status equals 204, then we need to do something. So we need to remove that post from the post list, but this is a post item. This post item doesn't have access to the post list. We need to tell the parent that the post was deleted and it needs to be removed. So in this case, we need to emit and tell the parent that, hey, the post has been just deleted. So we need to define right here emit. Define emits, and we have to specify right here the event names we are going to emit from this component. The only event we're going to emit is delete at the moment. So from here, I'm going to call emit and pass delete right here. And we can even pass the post which has been just deleted. Now, if we go in the post list on this component right here, we need to listen to the delete. Okay, and whenever delete happens, we're going to call local function onDelete. Now let's create that function. Inside this onDelete function, we accept the post, and we need to update the post list. So the post list value equals post list.value filter. So we're going to filter all the existing posts and take out only those ones which ID is different from the given post ID. So there will be only one post removed from the list, and the post list value will be updated one. So instead of status code 204 right here, we just need status code 200. Let's go back and click delete right here, click OK, and the item was successfully removed. Let's click right here again, and the second item was removed as well. All right, let's now implement the same functionality in React. Let's go in the post item. First, I'm going to copy this div and put this right here. Then I'm going to change this class into class name. I'm going to change also click event listener. Instead of at click, it's going to be on click. So inside the on click, we need curly braces. Inside curly braces, we need to pass a callback function. So I'm going to create the following callback function and then on delete click. This is something that doesn't exist yet, but we're going to create that. So I'm going to basically call on delete click pass the post. So it's very similar to what we did in Vue.js. Now let's create this function inside component. We accept post right here, and then let me copy the following code, but we have small difference. So first we have the confirmation, which is identical. We make the request, which is identical. This is something we need to change. Okay, we don't have emit in React. Instead, we're going to pass on delete function from parent component to the child component. And this is something that needs to be called. By the way, Y is missing right here. So from here, we're going to pass on delete, which needs to be function. So on delete, this is something we're going to create right here. Let me actually copy this function from here as well. Let's put this, but let's understand what should be different. So on delete, we accept a post. We need to filter the existing post list. We don't need .value. We take the post list, filter that, and take out the new list. And we need to pass this new list into setPostList function. So instead of this, we're going to call setPostList and pass this as an argument. Okay, so we have onDelete right here. We pass onDelete to the post item. The only thing is to define that onDelete in this post item right here. So we define onDelete right here, which by default needs to be arrow function. And instead of emit onDelete, we're going to call onDelete and pass the post. Now we save this, go in the React and click on delete. Click OK, and the item was removed. Click delete, click OK, and the second item was removed as well. I think that's super cool. You should watch this video till the very end, because at the very end, we're going to convert our application and use state management solution. For Vue, we're going to use Vuex. For React, we're going to use context API. Now let's implement creating posts. For this, first, we need to define a new route. And that new route needs to listen to some kind of URL. So in this case, I'm going to define the URL to be /new, and the component needs to be some new component, and I'm going to call the component post form. That component doesn't exist yet, so we have to create this right now. Let's go under pages, because the component is associated to some kind of route. I'm going to create this inside pages, and that's going to be post form.view. Let's generate boilerplate code. Let's change this into setup and remove this export default. I'm going to use the exact same post form component for editing the post. So I'm going to duplicate this once again, specify right here, edit, and parameter ID. And based on if this parameter exists or not, we're going to render the creation form or edit form for certain posts. Let's import ref and onMounted. We will need this in this component. I'm going to also import use route from Vue router. using use route, I'm going to create route right here, and that route will hold the information about current route. And from that route, we will be able to take the ID, which is declared right here. Next, I'm going to define a model using ref, and I'm going to specify it ID, title, and body. This is how my model will look like inside this component. Then inside onMounted, I'm going to make requests to get a single post. That's going to be get request. We take from route, we take params ID, and that's going to be ID, which will be in the URL. Next, I listen to then, of course, I convert this into JSON, I get the post, and model.value equals post. And using this approach, I will have a model available in my template. And let's test this. So I'm going to type model. Now let's go in the browser and try to open a post. Let's reload the page. I think we have an error. Let's check in the console. Post form is not defined. Of course, we need to go in the router, and just like we have imported post list, we have to import post form. Let's save this and have a look in the browser. Here we go. So now if we just try to open a single post like edit/1, this is model. This is the model we see right here in this post form. And as you can see, the model has title and body and user ID and ID. So that proves that we have successfully made a request and populated the model. However, if we open a URL on /new, we're going to see an empty model right here. Well, we need to add an additional check right here. If route params ID does not exist, we are not going to make requests, so we simply return. And now, if we just reload the page, we're going to see a model with ID, title, and body as empty strings. This is the default model we see in the template. Now, let's work on this template. I'm going to delete this pre. Now, let's define div right here, and inside there we're going to have form. We listen to form submission, and we're also calling prevent default. This is the modifier which is supported in Vue, and that is something which I really love. It's really handy. So we listen on submit, and we're going to create that function a little bit later. Down below, I'm giving the title to the form, and I'm checking if the model ID exists, then the title will be edit post. Otherwise, we're going to have title create new post. So we basically check if it is edit, we change the title. If it is create, we have the create new post. Down below, we're going to have two input fields. One will be post title, and second will be post body. And I'm giving these bootstrap classes to give it a nice look. And under, we're going to have a button, which is going to be type submit and btn success. So if you now have a look, this is how the create new post looks like. Okay, let's actually print right here model. And we see the model right here. As soon as I start typing, the model does not change because we don't have two-way data binding. To enable two-way data binding, we have to specify v-model right here, and for the title, that's going to be model.title. For the body, that's going to be model.body. I save this, and then if I type something in the title, we see that the title is changed. In the body is changed. And if I try to access edit/1, then we see that the model is populated, and it also populates inputs right here. And that's amazing. This is very simple, and this is something which is really handy in Vue.js. Okay, I'm going to add one additional thing. I'm going to disable a submit button if the title and body both are empty. So I save this and have a look in the browser. So if I just access to the URL/new, we see that the button is disabled. We cannot click on this. If I start typing in the title or in the body, then the button gets enabled. If I delete a value, button is disabled. Now, let's do everything related to post form in React. First, let's open router, and I'm going to define two new routes. First will be /new, and that's going to be post form. And second will be edit/ID, and that's going to be post form as well. Now, let's go in the components and create post form.jsx. Let's generate boilerplate code, and inside there, I'm going to copy and paste my post form template. Well, first of all, I'm going to move this post form into pages because this is associated to route. It must be under pages. Now let me copy and paste the whole div, and let's modify it step by step, and that's going to be a perfect point to compare them. So instead of double curly braces, we need single. Then inside there, we need JSON stringify, we specify model, we specify undefined, and 2. Let's remove the submit, we don't need that at the moment. To display the title, we just need to change the double curly braces into single, and the rest of the things stay right here the same. The only thing we need to change in this file is we need to replace class into class name, and that's going to be done in multiple places. Then let's remove vModel because this is something which is not supported in React, and let's just remove this disabled, or we can convert this into the following way: remove colon, and then we add curly braces right here. We basically don't need double quotations, we just need curly braces, and everything else stays the same. However, we don't have a model defined right here, so let's create state const model and set model, use state, and we specify right here an initial value, which is going to be the following object with ID, title, and body. Of course, we need to go in the router, and let's try to import this. Okay, here it is. Now let's check in the browser, reload the page, and we see everything is good. Now let's try to access /new, and we see right here the exact same form. However, at the moment, we don't have two-way data binding. And we don't also listen to mount hook to make requests and get current post information. Okay, let's copy this onMounted right here, and we're going to change that. Instead of onMounted, we're going to use effect. And that use effect needs to be imported from React. We pass the callback, and we need to pass an empty array right here. We format everything nicely, but we also need to take the params. We don't have a route params ID in React. Instead, we have a hook for this, which is called use params. So basically, these are my params, and I'm gonna use param right here. And that use param needs to be imported React router DOM. So we destructure the actual parameters, take out ID from there, or we can call these params completely. And then instead of route params ID, we have params ID. This is the params ID. If the params ID does not exist, we don't make request. Otherwise, we make request, we pass params ID, we get the actual post right here, and we need to call set model right here, passing the post. And if we do this and have a look in the browser, we see now model is populated, but the model values are not filling the input fields. Okay, now let's take here this two-way data binding in React. First of all, inside the inputs, we have to specify a value. And the value needs to be bound from model.title. And right here, we're going to have model.body. So this means that whenever the model value, model title or model body exists, that's going to populate the form. However, if I start typing something in the input that doesn't change my title, and even my typing does not actually work, because every time I type something, it is overwritten from the model value. To enable data binding, we need to listen to onInput. So onInput, we accept event right here, and the event has access to target and value. So basically, I'm going to call set model right here. We're going to update the model every time something is typed inside the input. Set model accepts an object. So I'm going to destructure my existing model object. Let me enlarge this on the full screen. I'm going to destructure existing model and then provide right here title to be event target value. And I'm going to do the same thing, but for body. In this case, body will be event target value. And now let's have a look in the browser. So if I start typing something right here, I see that the model title is also updated. And the same thing happens for body. So this is how you can implement two-way data binding in React. In Vue, it's super simple. You just provide the vModel and the property name. In React, you have to first give the value, and then you need to listen to onInput, and whenever this is changed, you need to manually update the property. Okay, but everything right now is very identical. If we don't have title or body, the submit button is also disabled in React. Now, let's listen to form submission and make requests to either create the post or update it. So we are listening on the form submission right here. Let's remove this pre, and we have to create this onSubmit function down below. Let's create this below onMounted. function on submit. We're going to check if the model value ID exists. This means that we have to send update request. Otherwise, we're going to make create request. So inside if, we are making fetch on the following URL and we provide model value ID. And we are going to also change the method into put, and we're going to provide body right here. That's going to be stringify value of model.value. We listen to then, we convert this into JSON, and in response, we navigate user to the slash. So basically, after the post is updated, we need to redirect user to the post list page where user will be able to see an updated post. This router doesn't exist in this file yet, and we're going to create that. But let's handle else case first. Inside else, we are going to make a fetch request. The method will be post. We pass the model value as a stringify version. We get then, and inside then we redirect user to the slash. Let's scroll up, and I'm going to import use router from here, and I'm going to define router const router equals use router. Now we have the router, and let's have a look in the browser. So I'm going to provide right here test and body, and click submit, and let's see what happens. We are successfully redirected to the list page, which indicates that the request was successfully made. However, we don't see our created post, and you know why? Because we are using a fake API. So whenever we make request, it returns a successful response. It seems like everything worked perfectly, but actually it does not save anything. This is for just mocking, for testing, but that's absolutely fine. If you're building an actual application and making the following post requests in your application, if your API is implemented correctly, that's going to return the successful response. And whenever you are redirected to your index page and making requests to get the updated list, it's going to return the new item right there as well. Okay, let's have a look once again. So we need to access to /new. Let's open the network right here. Let's provide test and test right here, and let's click submit. Okay, so here it's making a post request. However, now let's handle a case when we want to update. So this is existing post. Let's update this and click submit. Right here it's making a put request, so everything is implemented correctly. To finalize this, we're going to add two links. First, to create new post, and second, to edit an existing post. Now let's go in the post list first, and at the top I'm going to add a new link. I'm going to put this link inside a paragraph, and that's going to be router link, and the to will indicate to /new. The class will be btn success bootstrap classes and add new. So this is a new router link. Whenever we click this, it's going to open new view router page. So now let's have a look. Let's scroll up. We see this add new. Let's click on this, and it opens the following URL. Well, let's add another button right here to go back into the list. So let's all go in the post form, and at the very top, let me actually copy the following paragraph, put this right here. Let me change this into outline secondary, and maybe the text right here will be go back to list. Let's save this and have a look in the browser, go back to list. When you click on this, it's going to stay on new because we have to change this to into something like /. So when we click on this, we go in the list, click on this, we go in the form. And we need to add right here an edit button. Let's go in the post item, and above this button, I'm going to add another button. Well, it is actually a router link, but it has styles like a button. btn primary. I'm going to give it also margin and 2 to have a little bit of space between these edit and delete button. And it's going to have also 2. And this 2 right now, as you see, is dynamically bound URL, where we have the edit / and the actual post ID. So now if we have a look in the URL, when we mouse over on edit, we see in the bottom left corner of the screen, edit 1. If we mouse over on this, we see edit 2, and so on. If I click on this, we see edit 2. If we go back and click on the first one, this is edit 1. So I think we have finalized everything in Vue version. Now let's take care of React. Let's first listen to form submission. We need on submit right here, and I'm going to call on submit function. Let's remove this pre-tag, and at the top, I'm going to define this on submit, maybe after use effect function on submit. We are going to accept right here an event, and we need to call event prevent default. So this is something really handy in Vue. So if we go in the post form and scroll up, we see that the submit has a modifier .prevent. We don't need to type every time prevent default to actually prevent the default. This is something really handy in Vue. But let's scroll down below now, and I'm going to copy the following piece of code and paste this right here and modify. So first of all, we need to check if the model.id exists. If that exists, then we make put request passing the model ID right here in the URL and the actual model as a stringify version right here. Whenever we get the successful response, we need to navigate user, but router push is not something for React, it is for Vue. We actually need, first of all, we need to import the router. So make sure the router is successfully imported. So let's scroll up, and this is the router which is successfully imported right now. And we need to specify right here router.navigate and specify slash. Let's scroll down below. We have to provide right here the model, and right here we need navigate. Now let's save this and have a look in the browser. Let's actually access URL to create new post, and this is test, this is body. Let's click on submit, and we are redirected to the list page. This means that one of the callback functions was successfully executed. Now let's go in the post list and add right here a link to create new post. From the post list, I'm gonna copy the following paragraph, and in React, basically, you cannot have two elements, HTML elements, inside the root level. You need to wrap them inside so-called fragment. So this is what we need to do in React. Previously, it wasn't able in Vue as well, but in Vue 3, now this is possible. Okay, in React, we don't have router link. Instead, we have a link. When we hit right here, enter, it's going to automatically import the link from React router DOM. So we have this link. We have to provide right here two new, we have the btn. Well, we need to change the class into class name, and then let's remove these empty spaces. Let's save this and have a look in the browser. We see add new, add new. Why do we see twice? Because I duplicated mistakenly, and then we have add new. When I click on this, it's going to open the create new post form. Now let's go back and open post item, and now we're going to create right here an edit button. Let me actually copy this from post item from Vue. I'm going to copy this, paste this right here. Instead of :2, we need to specify curly braces. This is how dynamical values can be provided in React. So we provide this correctly right now. Instead of router link, we need to have just a link with uppercase L. And that's going to be imported from React router DOM. So we provide right here link, we provide two, we need to change the class into class name, save this and have a look in the browser. Let's go back, and we see edit button right here. When I click on this, it's going to open the edit post. Let's click on the second one, it's going to open the edit post. I think this is perfect. We need this go back to list button inside this now edit post form. So let's go in the post form. Let's go in the post form right here as well and find this paragraph. Let's format the code, by the way. Let's find this paragraph, and right here, I'm going to paste this, change this router link into just a link, and change this class into class name. And now if I save and format everything, let's remove this white empty spaces, and let's check in the browser, go back to list. When I click on this, it's going to open the list, add new, back, edit, and now let's test that edit and creation works successfully. So we provide some kind of information right here, click on submit, it's going to make a put request right here. If I go back and click add new and provide some test information right here, click on submit, it's going to make post request. Everything works perfectly. One important thing, in this post item, we accept a post prop, and we specify that the type of the prop needs to be an object and it must be required. If I actually open the post list and remove this post from here, save and have a look, we need space right here, and have a look. If I just open, reload the page, we are going to probably see, let's go back, we're going to probably see an error. Right here, we see an error that it cannot read properties of undefined reading title. So this is because it's trying to read the title of the post, but the post was not given. But if we check warnings, we're going to see an actual warning required, missing required prop post. However, in our React application, the post is not actually required property. So in this case, I'm going to open the terminal in React and install PropTypes and configure the post to be a required property. So npm install-s PropTypes. Hit the enter. Now let's start the server back. Now this is our post item component. Down below, I'm going to specify post item PropTypes to be an object. And I'm going to specify right here the actual post. The post needs to be PropTypes, and that PropTypes needs to be imported. It is not imported. That needs to be imported from PropTypes. So we have to manually write import PropTypes from PropTypes. Let's scroll down below. Then PropTypes.object.is required. And just like this, we configure our prop to be an object, and it must be also required. Now, I'm going to demonstrate the state management solution. Inside Vue, I'm going to use Vuex. npm install-s Vuex at 4. I'm going to install the 4th version. In React, we don't need to install anything because we're going to use the context API which comes with React. Let's start the server in Vue. And now I'm going to create a file called store.js. Store is a single source of data, and it's going to contain all kind of data and data manipulation methods as well. To create store, first we need to import create store from Vuex. Then we actually create the store and we need to export the store as a default value. Inside this create store object, we have to specify state, actions, mutations. We also have support for getters, but we don't need getters at the moment. We just need state, actions, and mutations. Inside state, I'm going to specify first 5 posts. I'm going to hard code those first 5 posts inside the state. So let me collapse this, and inside the actions. So actions are the actual functions which needs to be called if you want to make requests to the server, for example, or modify some kind of information, manipulate the data. Mutations are the functions which actually change the value inside the state. So in this case, I'm going to have a delete post. Every action basically accepts right here an object, and the object contains state and commit, and we pass right here an ID as well. So in this case, I'm going to commit. The commit is a function which accepts a mutation name. So in this case, we're going to pass the mutation name set posts, which does not exist yet, but we're going to create that soon. So I want to commit the mutation set posts, and I'm going to pass the updated posts. So basically, the purpose of this function is to actually delete the post. So I take the post from the state.posts. I filter those posts and extract the post which was given. So I take only those posts which has ID different from the one I gave right here. And then I pass this into set posts. Now down below, I'm going to have another method, get single post. We accept state right here. We destructure this object, take out state. We pass the ID. In this case, inside the state posts, I search for the post which has the given ID, and I immediately return that post. Down below, I'm going to have another action, save post. This accepts right here the entire post, and I'm going to check right here. First of all, I'm going to get the current state posts and save it in a new post variable. And then I'm going to check if the post ID exists. This means that I have to update something. In else case, I have to create new post. But let's handle if case first. I iterate over my state posts, and I'm going to map each post into a new value. And inside the callback of the map, I'm going to check if each individual post ID is the same as the given post. It means that this is the post I want to update. And in this case, I return the given post, which will be the updated one. Otherwise, I'm going to return the original post, which is part of the array. So finally, I'm going to have a new post where all the items except one will be the same as it was previously before I run this method. Only one item which had the same ID as the given post will be updated. And I'm going to handle the else case. If the post ID does not exist, then I take the post and append inside the new posts array. And finally, I'm going to call set posts given the new posts. Now, let's implement the set post mutation. The set post accepts a state as the first argument. Every mutation basically accepts state as the very first argument. And we pass post right here. In this case, it's very simple. State.posts equals the given post. And using this approach, it's going to update the posts in the state. So we have created the store. Now let's open main.js, and just like we are using router right here, we're going to use store. make sure you import the store from the store file. Okay, now we have created store and using that store. Now let's go in the post list. And instead of making an HTTP request to the following JSON placeholder URL, I'm going to change this. I don't need to listen on mounted. Instead, I'm going to change this from ref into computed. And the computed accepts a callback right here. And from that callback, I'm going to return store state posts. The only thing we need to do right here is to access to the store. To make sure we have access to the store, let's first define store equals use store. The use store needs to be imported from Vuex. So let's just write import from Vuex, and right here we need use store. Now we have this use store, and we have the store, and we have post list as well. And if I save this right now and have a look in the browser, we see a small scroll compared to the right one, which makes a request to the server and returns much more posts. On the left side, we have only 5 posts, and those are the posts we have in our state. If we go in the state right here and maybe remove this one and this one and this one and leave only 2 posts, we see that we have only 2 posts right here. Okay, that actually proves that we are reading this data from the store, which is actually really awesome. Now let's go in the post list. We don't need to do anything right here. We can just delete this on delete function. We need to handle delete differently, and we don't need to listen to delete because the child will not emit this anymore. Now let's open post item. Go inside there and listen to on delete click. On delete click, instead of like making a delete request on the following URL, we are going to call a method store.dispatch. Dispatch will trigger the action. So in this case, we need delete post action, and we have to provide right here ID of the post. That's going to be post.id. Now let's import the store. To import the store, we need import, let's put this at the very top, import from Vuex. And right here we need use store. Then we need to define store. Const store equals use store. Let's hit the enter. Now we have the store and we're dispatching delete post. Now let's save this and have a look in the browser. We reload the page and click on delete, click OK, and the item was removed. Click delete, click OK, and it was removed. And if we just delete all the posts, we have only 1 right now. Okay, so this actually proves that we have implemented the delete post. Now let's open post item or post form, and let's have a look. In the post form, we actually listen to on mount hook and we make requests to read the information about the post. So instead of this, we are going to call store get single post action. So instead of this, I'm going to delete and write store dispatch get single post. And we're going to pass right here post.id, but we don't have post ID. We need to pass route params ID, just like this. Basically, the store actions return a promise. So we need to write a wait in front of it. That's going to return the actual value. That's going to be const post maybe. And we're going to make this callback asynchronous. And then I'm going to call model.value equals post. Or we can directly make this to be model.value. So if I save this and now click on edit, nothing really happens. Let's have a look in the console. We have an error. Store is not defined, obviously because we have not imported the use store. Const store equals use store. Hit the enter. Now that was automatically imported, parentheses, and just reload the page, and we see right here edit post. So that read the information from the store and populated that. So let's click on the second one and we see it right here. Okay, so this part also works successfully. And now let's modify on submit, and then we will be good to go. So inside on submit, we can directly call store dispatch save post, and we're going to pass model.value in this case. That's going to be the entire model. And whenever this happens, whenever this is done, we are going to navigate user to the list page. Because this returns a promise, we need the then right here, and whenever this happens, we need router push on slash. Okay, now let's format the code and have a look. Let's modify something, click on submit, and we are redirected to the list page. And pay attention, our post title was actually changed. If I click on edit and delete this completely and just type multiple one, click on submit, we see that the title is actually updated. So that information is saved in the store. And I think it's perfect time to have a look in the Vue.js developer tools. If we inspect this, and make sure you have installed Vue.js developer tools. Go in the extensions and install the Vue dev tools. Okay, I already have that installed. Click on the Vue right here, and that's going to give you a lot of information. But right now I'm going to demonstrate the state part. So this is our state, and we have right here 5 items. Okay, if I open the very first one, which is this one, it has the following body and title. If I edit its title, for example, test title, and click on submit, look at this, its title was actually updated. Okay, so this shows the information what is available inside the store. And that's actually proof that we have successfully implemented the updating. But let's actually try to add new post, body, click on submit. Where is this new post? I think it's at the very bottom because we just append this at the very bottom. Okay, but everything is implemented successfully. Now, I think we're going to focus on React. Okay, let's now create context provider. First, let's import create context, use context, and use state from React. We will need those in this file. Then I'm going to create state context using create context function. I'm going to also define constant variable posts. That's going to be the exact same post we defined in Vue.js inside store right here. Okay, let me collapse this, and down below I'm going to define context provider, and I'm going to export this context provider. The context provider right here accepts an object, we destructure that and take out the children from here. From this context provider, I'm going to return the state context which we just created dot provider. Inside the provider opening and closing tags, I'm going to provide the children, the given children. Anything that will be inside this context provider will be rendered normally. But we're going to provide some kind of values for all the children's. And that's going to be under value. The value, we're going to bind dynamically some kind of data inside the value. We have these curly braces, which is the dynamical expressions for binding data. And inside these curly braces, we're going to put additional curly braces, okay? Which we're going to do this right now. First, I'm going to define the state. And as an initial value, I'm giving the posts. We have the posts and set posts. And then I'm giving additional curly braces inside which we have the posts object. So that is an actual object where posts correspond to posts. And now posts, these posts will be available in every child component of this state context provider. Okay, let's go even step further and create additional functions right here, which we can expose through this value, and those functions can be used in every child component. Okay, I'm going to create right here a function to delete post, which accepts an ID. We filter the existing posts and call this set posts to actually update the posts. Okay, this is very similar to what we had in the store actions right here. Okay, but instead of commit set post, we already have set post right here. Okay, then we have a get single post. We search inside the post and return this one. Then we have save post. We accept the post right here. We have very similar logic right here, except this calling a commit, we call set post, pass the new post. Now we have 3 functions: delete post, get single post, and save post right here. And we're going to expose this through this state context provider like this: delete post, get single post, and save post. And those will be available in every child component of this state context provider. And down below, I'm going to create a shorthand function to use this state context. Use export const use state context equals the arrow function use context state context. All right, so far so good. Now I'm going to open main.js and I'm going to wrap my app using context provider. And that context provider was automatically imported from the context provider we just created. And because we have created context provider right here, the application and every child component has access on those values we provided right here. Okay, and if we now open post list and we're making requests right here, we don't need this anymore. So we just remove this use effect. We don't need that. We have this post list. Okay, we don't need that. Instead of this, we actually need equals use state context. And that use state context returns an actual context. That actual context is this type of object. So we need to take out posts from this type of object. So right here, I'm going to type posts. And we have posts available already. And instead of post list, I'm going to iterate over my posts. So if I actually save this and have a look in the browser, if I reload the page, we see that we have 5 items. That is actually proof that we have successfully implemented our functionality and we have the posts available. Okay, we don't need this on delete as we didn't need this for Vue application. So I'm going to actually remove that. I'm going to copy this part. I'm going to also remove this on delete. Okay, that's perfect. Now let's open this post item, and from here, instead of making requests to delete the object, I'm going to delete this. I am going to paste my copied use state context from here, and this use state context needs to be imported from here, so that's perfect. And right here, I will need delete post. Okay, and this delete post is something we need to call after user accepted the confirmation, and I'm going to pass right here post.id. So I save this, and let's have a look in the browser. I'm going to click delete and OK, and it was removed. Let's click removed, click removed, and click removed. We have only one post remained. Okay, that's perfect. So far so good. Now let's go in the post form and let's have a look. So we listen on mount and we load the information. We actually don't need this, I think. Or if we take this, instead of making a fetch, we need to call set model params.id, but we need to call get single post. And that get single post needs to be a function through use state context equals use state context. I think this is exactly what we need to do. Now, if I click on edit, we see the post details are actually populated. Okay, that's perfect. And now let's handle updates. So I'm going to remove these if statements, else statement, and I am going to not import, but actually take out save post from here and then call save post and pass model right here. Okay, now let's update this and give it title 1. Let's hit on save. It looks like it didn't work, or maybe it worked, but we didn't redirect user. Let's go back to the list. It looks like it worked, but we didn't redirect user. So the only thing what is remaining right here is router.navigate to /. So I save this. Oops, I did something wrong. Now let's click on edit. Let's change this into 222. Click on submit, and it looks like it's working perfectly. So I'm going to edit this, type 3 right here, click on submit, and we're back. Now let's add new post, click on submit, and at the very bottom we see this new post. I'm looking forward for your comments. Let me know in the comment section which framework is your favorite, Vue or React. Let me know also what do you think about the video, whether you like it or not. If you like the video, hit the like button, make sure you check my website thecodeholic.com and check my premium course building e-commerce website using Laravel and Vue.js. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next time.